This is my current concealer tray. I'm trying not to tip it over so I don't spill anything. And this does not include the concealers that we're going to be talking about today that made it into my top picks for women over 40. Hey beauties, welcome and welcome back. It's me, Lydia Marie. Welcome back to the channel. Today, you guys, we have a subscriber requested video. I love when that happens. I love when you guys ask me to do something specific, and I was asked to do a video talking about some of my favorite concealers for women over 40. You guys know I'm 49, and you know I absolutely love concealer. I never skip it in any of my makeup routines, so I was very glad to get this request. I had an old video about concealers over 40, but it needed to be updated, so this request was right on time. So let's go ahead and pick out some of the concealers that I think are best for my beauties over 40. This was very hard to narrow down, but I think I got it. If you're new here, hey, my name is Lydia Marie. Welcome to the channel. I mainly do beauty content for women over 40, but everybody is welcome here. So let's go ahead and get into my top concealer picks for my babes over 40. So when I'm picking a concealer, I always go for concealers that have fuller coverage. So medium to full coverage, buildable, etc. And I use that because I really like my concealer to do exactly what it says it's going to do. If I have any blemishes, if I have any dark circles, I want my concealer to actually conceal those areas. So I have concealers in 3 different categories. One, I always choose a concealer that is hydrating because I do have normal to dry skin, and my skin is specifically dry and sensitive underneath my eyes. I just got a piece of lotion or something on my lash. What is that on my hand? I think it's lotion. Anyway, I do choose concealers that are fuller coverage, definitely something that is hydrating. I have concealers in like 3 different shades, at least one that is closer to my skin tone. And it should be noted that concealer is never going to be your perfect skin tone match. It's meant to complement and cover and correct. So it's always going to be a little bit off, but the undertone should always match. I hope that makes sense. So I have concealers that are closer to my skin tone. I have concealers that I use to brighten my under eye because I like a brighter under eye, and to highlight the high points in my face, so my forehead, the bridge of my nose, cupid's bow, and my chin. So I have concealers that brighten, and then I have some concealers that I use to color correct, so color correcting any dark spots that I may have, or acne, or anything like that. So I have concealers that cover pretty much the gamut. And again, you saw my concealer tray, so that includes all of these. In no particular order, we're going to start off with the Haus Labs Triclone Concealer. This is the concealer that I would recommend to you if you came to me and you're like, Lydia, I'm 45, I have a dry under eye, I have somewhat sensitive skin, so I'm looking for something that gives me a skin-like finish that's easy, wearable, breathable, and it still gives me the coverage to cover up any dark spots or blemishes. I'm going to tell you, run, don't walk, and pick up a couple of the Haus Labs concealers. These are absolutely worth the coin. And that's another thing that should be noted. I spend my money in makeup on my complexion products. So these are all higher brand type of concealers. I just wanted to put that in there. But the Haus Labs concealer is really your go-to for that good skin-like finish. I use a medium, neutral, and then I use a peach tone for brightening my under eye. I use these regularly, but I would absolutely recommend these if you're someone who is looking for a skin-like type concealer that's still going to give you the job of coverage, color correcting, and brightening all in one. It's gonna be the Haus Labs Triclone Concealer. If you're someone like me who appreciates a full beat but still wants to look like themselves, but just your makeup is laid and it's full coverage, it's glam, this is where we're going to talk about the Bobbi Brown. This is the Skin Full Cover Foundation. It does just that. It really does cover really, really well. It's a full coverage foundation, but it is so lightweight and it is so skin-like and hydrating all in one. It really is a miracle type of concealer to me. I use the shade Honey and the shade Warm Honey. Those are the two shades that I like to use, and I think Honey is the lighter shade. Yeah, this is the one I use to brighten, and as you can see, it has kind of like a peach undertone to it, so I like to put that here under my eye to really give me a nice fresh awake look. But if you're looking for a full coverage concealer, I can do my whole face with both of these and it'll look like I have on a nice lightweight foundation. It just covers that well, but it's still very wearable, very breathable. It's not cakey in any way, and you can really apply this and do a full coverage look with this concealer. Bobbi Brown is really a great brand for that type of thing, where you can use it for color correction, concealing dark circles, and correcting any blemishes. So we're going to go in next with the Bobbi Brown Skin Full Coverage Concealer. For those of you who have a little bit of sensitive skin, maybe like some rosacea or eczema, or your skin gets red, the Tower 28 Serum Concealer is a great concealer for you because it is made for those with sensitive skin. I use this shade, I think it's number 9. I use this one specifically for brightening, but it's such a good lightweight serum concealer, but it still gives you coverage. Just because it's lightweight in texture doesn't mean it's not going to cover up really well. It does a great job of covering. So if you're someone who has a little bit of sensitive skin or something like that, or you just like the feel of a more serum consistency in your concealer, Tower 28 I think is a really great brand for that reason alone, and they have such great colors for their concealers and things like that. Again, this is a really bright shade because I like it like my under eye bright, but it's not too far off from the Bobbi Brown, so you can kind of see the colors that I like to use for my under eye like that. So really great concealer, especially if you're someone who has sensitive skin. You might want to check out the Tower 28 Serum Concealer. One concealer that is not talked about enough to me is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Magic Touch Concealer, but I'm kind of glad about it because I never wanted to go so viral that it begins to get sold out. This is the one I go to. Another one like the Bobbi Brown when I want that full coverage look, that glam look, but still very wearable. I can also put this over all over my face as a touch up and dot it, blend it out, and my skin looks fantastic. It's really, really good under my eye, and especially down in this area where my makeup tends to settle. It just lays really well. It doesn't get all into my fine lines and things, and it blends out with any powder or foundation. This is a really great option for those of you who are looking for something a little bit more full coverage, not quite as glam as the Bobbi Brown, but still giving you the coverage and the touch-ups that you need, the color correction. It has a nice shade range, and it's pretty affordable. I think it's like $20-$25 or something. You can definitely get these at Ulta, but the Magic Touch Concealer is one that is not talked about enough. I actually love it. It's in my top 5, so I would highly recommend this for my girls over 40. Next up is my Dior Forever Skin Glow Concealer. This is the most skin-like concealer that I have, I think, other than the House Labs. When I put this on, it gives me a nice radiant finish, so I would wear this all over my face. I do put it in the inner corner of my eye, and I have the shade 4W, so that is more of my skin tone. I can wear this all over, and it just looks like a flawless, radiant finish. If you like something that's a little bit more radiant and not as full coverage, not as mattifying, or not as glam, this is a really, really good one. It's medium coverage, but you can absolutely build it up to full coverage. Absolutely worth your coin. Sometimes the higher end products are worth the coin because of the quality and the way that they wear, and I found that this one has really been a long lasting concealer. I'm someone who wears my glasses all the time, but when I set my concealer really well with this one with a nice powder, it's still on at the end of the day, especially in these areas where my makeup tends to separate. This is a really great one from Dior, and it gives you a nice radiant finish. So if you're someone who likes a nice skin like radiant finish, this is a really great concealer for that purpose. Lastly is an honorable mention from the drugstore. I don't really have too many drugstore concealers. I've started recently, as you guys know if you've been watching, wearing the Morphe Wake Up Artist Concealer, which I really do enjoy. I haven't really given it I can't put this in my top yet because I haven't used it enough, I'll say that, but it's a good concealer. However, this is my 3rd bottle of the Maybelline Magic Eraser Concealer. Fantastic. This is a full coverage concealer, but it doesn't feel like a full coverage concealer, but this is one that will help you get rid of those dark circles. If you have dark circles, I don't know what Maybelline puts in this. Maybe that's why it's called the eraser. It's the Eraser Multi-Use Concealer. And this has recently gone viral with the younger crowd. And I'm like, no, no, no. Maybelline made this for the mature ladies, okay? I need the 20-somethings to back off and not be selling out our concealer. But it really is a great concealer. About $15, which is kind of high for the drugstore. I would say about between $12 and $15 now with everything. But the Magic Eraser Concealer, it has like this little sponge applicator on top, and all you do is crank the bottom and it comes out, and look how well that covers. Coverage for days. And I got one, of course, to give you brightness, but this is actually a full coverage concealer. Still very comfortable though, absolutely comfortable. If you're looking for something from the drugstore, this one from Maybelline is fantastic. So now that we have the concealers that I recommend for my ladies over 40 out the way, let me just talk about how we need to be prepping our skin. Even if we're wearing the most serum light concealer like this one from Tower 28, if it's the most lightweight concealer or just something that you put on, if it's a light coverage, you still need to be prepping your skin really well, especially if you're wearing concealer under your eye, right? Because the skin under our eye is the most delicate. It can be the most drying. That's where we tend to get lines first. And the last thing you want to do is just put concealer on an eye that has no moisturizer underneath. You want to let that moisturizer, after you've washed your face, cleanse your face, etc. And it doesn't have to be eye cream. It could just be the moisturizer that you're using on your face. Dab a little bit with your ring finger underneath your eye before you apply your concealer, because just that's going to help the concealer from really settling into any fine lines that we may have. And this is where I have my fine lines, and again, my under eye is super dry, so I always make sure my skin is prepped really, really well. After I put on my moisturizer, I wait about 2 to 3 minutes to make sure the moisturizer is absorbed, and then I go in and apply the concealer. Because if you apply the concealer while your moisturizer is still sitting on top of your skin, you haven't given it time to actually absorb, that's going to cause this concealer that you work so hard to apply to slide right off. It's not going to give you the coverage. Then you're going to be calling me, leaving a comment saying, this didn't cover my dark circles, it faded right away. Well, how did you prep your skin? Did you wait in between applications and things like that? And then we want to get into how we set our concealer. So after you have your concealer applied and it's set and where it is, you take it, you blend it out. You can either use a brush like I like to use, and that just helps to blend it out very, very smoothly and kind of shear it out even more, and then tap over it with a sponge, or some people like a beauty sponge, or some people even like to blend out their concealer with their fingers. But once your concealer is blended out, you don't want to go in right away with that powder. It's kind of the same concept as with your moisturizer, letting your concealer set for a minute before you put the powder on, because again, it's going to kind of work like paste. You know how you make gravy and you put the flour and then you add the water too soon and it just makes lumps? That's kind of what your concealer would do if you apply your powder right away when you do that. So you want to let it absorb into your skin, give it a minute or two, do your bronzer, what have you, and let your concealer sit before you go right on top of it with powder, because again, that can cause the concealer to crease, that can cause the concealer to settle into your fine lines, or not really set the concealer at all. If you, like for me, if I put my glasses on, it'll be moving all over the place. So just give yourself some time in between steps of applying your makeup and let it sit, and then move on to the next step. Another thing I want to mention is when you're applying concealer to areas other than your under eye, if you're applying it to a blemish or you're applying it to a dark spot, you want to apply it in sections. You don't want to apply it like a foundation where you take it and you blend it all over the place, because it's meant to conceal. So you want to take a dab of it over wherever it is you're trying to cover. I'm just going to use this space for reference right here, right? I'm not taking it all over. Even if I needed the coverage up here, I would still dab it in one place. Give it a couple of seconds. Let it do what it do, kind of activate itself, you know, and then I would get my brush. You guys have seen me do this, and tap. And I'm not swirling it, I'm tapping. Because when you're using it for touch-ups, it's to neutralize your skin. It's to make it look like this blemish is not there and this is just my skin. I hope that makes sense. So you see I'm just tapping it into place like that and tapping it here. I already have on makeup, I know, and I know this is gonna look crazy, but you get the gist, right? I'm a visual learner. I need to see it. So this is for my visual learners. If you don't just want to hear me talk about it, I'm just tapping it over the area and gently blending it out just a little bit more, but I'm not blending it in as if I would do that with my foundation. And then versus using a brightening powder like the one I would use under my eye or something like that, I would go in with my normal pressed or my setting powder, which is something like my MAC. Like I would use my MAC, if I can get it open. This is awkward. I thought I was prepared. I'm sorry. I would use something like a MAC pressed powder. Take the same brush after I let this sit for a second or two and just tap over it. And then you're setting it that way. Or you can use your loose powder, whatever you prefer. But I prefer pressed powder over my concealer first. And I'm just tapping over it just to set it down. So that's just a little trick or a tip if you're using your concealer to spot treat any acne or dark marks. Okay, beauty, so those are my suggestions for my concealers for makeup lovers over 40 with maturing skin. Again, I have normal to dry skin, so all of those concealers are pretty hydrating. But even if you have oily skin, the skin under our eyes, especially as we age, does tend to be a little bit drier. Again, a little bit sensitive and definitely more thinner. So I think all of these concealers can definitely work if you weren't to use them under your eye. All the products will be linked down below. Leave me a comment if this was helpful. I hope the tips that I mentioned in this video were also helpful as well. And thanks again for this suggestion. I love doing videos like this. I absolutely love it. If you have any more suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you back here for my next video real soon. Bye.